at the Burger King right now, chilling. I thought about doing some writing. I'm kind of interested in this. Let's review some English grammar. And are we doing fiction though? We don't need to do paragraph writing and crafting crafting. Let's review some English grammar and crafting. Sounds like a fun mix. We dive into whatever you're in the mood for. Or we can fine tune some sentence structures, tackling a specific grammar rule that's been acting up, or jumping into world building and character drafting. Well, let's build a small grammar today called Bevan's grammar. It's kind of like Wheelock's Latin grammar. Yeah, Bevan's grammar is every great constructed grammar or congram. I've never heard that before. Needs a structural philosophy, always designing this to be ultra efficient, highly expressive, beautifully complex, or perhaps something that breaks standard linguistic rules entirely. Uh, uh, let's define rules. I want to go subject, verb, object. I want to go like a vocabulary list. I'm gonna do like a level in reader. Level in reader. So we might want to start at level 1. Might want to start at level 10 or 20. Excerpts from creative writing scenes pulled off of Gutenberg. We'll do some. Let's do some prompts, as well as some story premises, story premise, story idea, fragments of prose, fragments of poetry, and some crafting techniques, active voice checks. What else can I add? That is a massive, incredibly robust blueprint. By combining a strict structural backbone, subject, verb, object, with level N readers, Gutenberg style literary analysis, and crafting metrics like active voice checks, you aren't just building a grammar, you're creating a full scale computational and creative writing framework. I didn't even know active voice checks was a crafting thing. Like, imagine you're building a clay pot and you've got it thrown up there. I guess you craft it in a certain way. You do this, you do that. You need to get you some new shoes. That's active voice. The shoes you need to get you some new ones. That's not. To turn this into a truly comprehensive engine for analyzing, generating, and refining text, Here are a few structural layers you can add to the architecture. Structural and syntactic constraints. Since you have subject verb object as the bedrock, you can formalize how modifiers and clauses behave around that spine. Modifier anchor rules. Do adjectives always precede nouns? Or do they stack post-noun like in romance languages? If it's a clean grammar, maybe modifiers are strictly mathematical. Compound adjectives must be hyphenated or joined by specific operators. Never heard of that. Tense and aspect markers. Instead of messy, irregular English verb conjugations, Bevan's grammar used rigid prefix suffix tokens to denote the exact time, tense, and completion status. I like the markers. Clausal nesting limits. For the level N reader engine, you can define a maximum tree depth limits. A level 1 reader might forbid dependent clauses entirely, while a level 5 reader allows deeply nested conditional stacks. Cool. Okay, let's go through a level 1 reader. Let's establish the baseline parameters for level 1 of Bevan's grammar. At level 1, the core philosophy is absolute syntactic clarity, zero stylistic fat, and hard structural limits. Appreciate the word fat because that will actually help me lose weight. To make this complexity completely programmable, we enforce strict mechanical constraints, syntax spine, rigid subject verb object configuration, no exceptions. Modifier rule, adjectives must immediately precede the noun they modify. No post noun stacking. Maximum of 7 words per sentence, clause cap, exactly 1 independent clause per sentence. 0 dependent clauses, coordinating conjunctions, and but or relative pronouns. Absolute active voice, no passive voice, no auxiliary verbs, is running, was hitting, and no nominalizations. Core level 1 vocabulary list. Subjects, the man, the wolf, the hunter, the wind, ice, stone, verbs. Cuts, bites, tracks, freezes, breaks, grips, stalks, thaws. The meat, the bone, the tail, the iron, the ridge, a trap, objects. Cold, sharp, deep, raw, blind, heavy adjectives. Level 1 reading passage, the foothills trail. Here's a sample text built strictly out of the level 1 specifications. Notice how the rhythmic structure hits like a hammer because every sentence perfectly tracks the SVO pipeline without deviation. The sharp wind cuts the ridge. Cold ice freezes the trail. The blind wolf tracks the meat. Deep snow hides a trap. The heavy stone breaks the iron. The hunter grips the raw bone. Diagnostic check. Active voice and syntax verification. Let's run a manual check on sentence 3 to ensure it perfectly passes the Bevan's Grammar Level 1 compiler. Also a compilable language. The blind wolf tracks the meat. It's a 6-word, so that's less than 7. Structural parsing, sharp, modified subject. Subject, the wolf. Verb tracks. Objects, the meat. Ballad, layer 1 prose. Okay. Give me the Gutenberg scene example, please. Please. Let's pull a classic heavy-hitting scene from Jack London's White Fang via Project Gutenberg. London's naturalism fits the raw, striking tone of Bevan's grammar perfectly, but his original prose uses complex, compound sentences level 1 will absolutely shred and rebuild. The original Project Gutenberg text. The dark spruce forest frowned on either side the frozen waterway. The land itself was a desolation, lifeless without movement, so lone and cold that the spirit of it was not even that of sadness. Why fame? The Bevan's Grammar Level 1 translation. To bring this down to Level 1 compliance, we eliminate the passive states, was a desolation. Drop the abstract dependent clauses, strip the adverbs, and force every single thought into a strict active subject-verb-object alignment under 7 words. Dark trees crowd the frozen river. Cold ice grips the dead land. Wild winter kills the quiet movement. Heavy silence haunts the lonely spirit. Okay, so my grammar is like a computer programming language. Ready to see how level 2 introduces compound thoughts and tense markers? What are my fragments of prose today? Because we got a model now. Now we're going to ask questions of the model. Kind of like asking the teacher a question. Let's look at the creative prose fragments on your radar right now. Your recent work spans a fascinating territory between deeply descriptive, creative scenes, rhythmic prose poetry, and abstract philosophical frameworks. Here are the primary fragments we can plug into the Bevan's Grammar engine today. The poetic prose fragments, liminal identity. You've been exploring abstract existential themes, focusing on memory, creative struggle, and the nature of self. These pieces use a lot of fluid, introspective language, making them perfect candidates for our active voice check and filtering sweeper to see if we can lock them down into hard, immediate action. The woe-poly prose poetry, emotional landscapes. Drawing from your recent engagement with Sally Davis's prose poetry blog from earlier this week, I do not remember that. That may be, it sounds familiar. I don't remember doing that. These fragments focus heavily on emotional landscapes. They are excellent for testing sentence length variance. You've been mapping out massive ideas where spoken human thought directly compiles into machine executable code. Syntactically, these fragments bridge pure logic and creative prose. I guess that's cool. Give me 10 fragments. Give me 10 fragments of prose, not a complete sentence. They're not supposed to be not complete sentences. They're just raw phrases waiting to be locked into the rules of Bevan's grammar. Along the jagged rim of the frozen northern ridge, the low, rhythmic scraping of rusted iron against heavy stone, teeth bared against the blinding fury of the white-out wind, a trail of dark, heavy blood steaming slightly in the deep snow, and that's the good stuff that I'm looking for. Edit and compile with my grammar. My grammar boy. Let's run these fragments through the cold, crushing gears of Bevan's Grammar Level 1. Because Level 1 demands an absolute unyielding subject-verb-object spine under a 7-word cap. We have to aggressively slice away the dangling modifiers, pick a concrete noun, and attach a high-impact active verb. Here's the official level 1 compilation of those 10 fragments. Originally along the jagged rim of the frozen northern ridge, compiled version is the sharp ridge cuts the sky. The low, rhythmic scraping of rusted iron against heavy stone. Rusted iron scrapes the heavy stone. Teeth bared against the blinding fury of the whiteout wind. The whiteout wind blinds the wolf. Pretty cool. Pine needles cover the hard frost. The predatory shadow stalks the trail. What about give me some story fragments in raw form. There were 5 raw, unpolished story fragments. That's not what I wanted. Heinrich was walking through the dense brush when he suddenly noticed that the wind had completely stopped blowing. He felt a cold shiver go down his spine. That's what I'm looking for. The story fragments sound different than the prose fragments. And I said, yes, because this thing learns. The story fragments are, if I were to say are sounding different than the prose fragments, that would not be active voice. The story fragments sound completely different than the prose fragments. I would say 100. Keep that up. Because it learns. The model learns. You caught that exactly, and you're 100% spot on. The difference is all about the narrative engine. The prose fragments were pure, isolated sensory data, frozen snapshots with no momentum, but these story fragments introduce agency, consequence, and psychic distance. They have a living character inside them, experiencing a timeline, which means they bring an entirely new set of linguistic problems: weak passive voice, narrative filters, and clumsy pacing. So let's weaponize Bevan's grammar level 1 against that first story fragment, the foothill stalk, to show how this framework brutally fixes narrative pacing. Raw story fragment. Heinrich was walking through the dense brush when he suddenly noticed that the wind had completely stopped blowing. He felt a cold shiver go down his spine. Level 1 compilation. We want less than 7 words, subject, verb, object, and active only. We violently strip out the weak progressive tense, was walking. Delete the filter words he noticed he felt, and force the environment back directly on Heinrich. Heinrich walks the dense brush. The freezing wind stops. Cold fear grips his spine. A massive shape tracks his steps. Also, let's build a narrator prose engine. An automated narrator prose engine is the ultimate command center for Bevan's grammar. This engine acts as a multi-stage parser and compiler. It takes your raw, messy story ideas with character actions, runs them through algorithmic pipelines to output perfectly structured, high-impact prose. Let's take a stage 1, the syntax filter word vacuum. locates tokens like he saw, she felt, he noticed, they realized. It deletes the pronoun, sensory verbs. There's a stage 2, a stage 3 Gutenberg style profiler. This stage injects specific literary texture. It maps your modern vocabulary token to classic, rugged Project Gutenberg lexicons like Jack London's naturalism, Melville's maritime weight, or Mary Shelley's Gothic edge. Simple words like forest or cold upgrade to spruce wilderness, yielding. Let's okay, let's use Jack Kerouac's. No, let's not do that, because kids maybe they're doing this now. We don't need them reading Jack Kerouac. Let's use Jack London's prose. Law of Club and Fang, texture and stage 3 Gutenberg style profiler. We'll boot up the narrator engine and pass a raw modern story fragment through stage 3 London lexicon, and then compile it down to stage 4. Input engine data. Got a raw prompt here, and then there's a Jack London style profiler. Level 1 compiler output. Heinrich shreds the primordial wilderness. The savage frost numbs his hands. A lone wolf howls darkness. The northland wild tests the man. Sharp iron defends his life. Now that sounds more like poetry though, right? Okay. Go to level 5 and let's get more fluid between sentences. I'll take the 7-word cap off of it. We got sentence length variance, clausal nesting, rhythmic fluidity, nesting without losing the active spine. Look at sentence 3. Out in the gathering dark, a lone wolf howled defiance into the whiteout wind, his cry vibrating deep within the violet valley's icy chest. A lesser grammar would slip into passivity here. Bevan's level 5 changed multiple active movements. Okay, so write something. There was someone at the lake. He strode out the door around 2 a.m., maybe 3, to see the white-capped stranger inside the boat. A simple skiff for perch fishing around the neighborhood pond. He saw him amid the reeds. Inside the skiff with paddle in hand. Then the engine for a moment failed with a purr sound, then ying 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 ying. He sailed swiftly down yonder side the pond. See how that doesn't make sense? Still sounds kind of cool. He saw the white capped pirate dragged in the skiff up the bank and vanished alongside the opposing shore. Not much of a story. He said later that the perch had not been biting for several days beforehand. Cold it was though. Let's see what happens. This raw memory contains. Oh, we got. There's a little skiff. This raw memory contains a fantastic layout for a deterministic cold northern mystery. Let's watch the level 5 narrator engine strip out the temporal vagueness around 2 a.m., maybe 3. Delete the filter words he saw, he said, and execute a heavy Jack London stylistic filter on the onomatopoeia bird and ying ying. Check this out. A bitter frost gripped the small neighborhood pond, freezing the perch deep beneath the reeds where no hook had broken the surface for days. At 3 in the morning, Heinrich strode out the cabin door into the biting air. A strange figure wearing a white cap occupied the small fishing skiff. The man sat motionless amid the tangled growth, an upright paddle cutting the dark water. Suddenly, the primitive outboard motor sputtered a harsh metallic rattle before the gears whined high and propelled the craft swiftly toward the yonder bank. The white-capped pirate dragged the light hull up the freezing mud and vanished instantly into the shadows of the opposing shore, leaving only the cold silence of the Northland wilderness behind. A luminous white skull luminous white skull. Bam. I don't know why I did that. I was trying to describe the way the moon reflects. Level 5 continuation, the Phantom of the Pond. The pirate vanished.
There you go.
Hey, oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. The pirate vanished, but a trace of his presence lingered on the dark water where the light hull had cut through the tangled growth. The black surface parting for a brief moment, a luminous white skull floating amid the freezing reeds. An unnatural pale radiance bled from its empty sockets, piercing the dense gloom of the shoreline and casting long skeletal shadows across the surface of the neighborhood pond. Heinrich gripped the cold iron blade, his eyes tracking the phosphorus glow as the unfeeling wilderness reclaimed its silence. I don't think that works as a continuation. I just wanted to describe the way the moon reflects on the water. But well, that was kind of fun. So we'll take it down. Take it down.